The Nobel Peace Prize is not a reward for virtue, but a triumph of power disguised as moral authority. To understand this through Machiavelli's lens, one must strip away the golden veneer of moral celebration and see the political architecture beneath. Machiavelli believed that every act in the theater of human affairs, even the most virtuous, is motivated by ambition, survival, and the pursuit of influence. He would not see the Nobel Peace Prize as a simple acknowledgement of goodness, but as a symbol of successful political image-making, where moral capital becomes a weapon sharper than any sword. In the world of power, he argued, appearances often outweigh truth. To seem just is more advantageous than to be just. The Peace Prize operates within that same paradox, rewarding not only those who seek harmony, but those who manage to frame their actions as indispensable to global order. Machiavelli would see in the Nobel Peace Prize the perfection of his principle that morality and power are intertwined through perception. A leader or activist who wins it gains more than prestige. They inherit legitimacy, the moral right to act, and a voice amplified above nations. In Machiavellian logic, such legitimacy can shift alliances, dissolve criticism, and elevate one's influence over both allies and enemies. Peace, then, becomes a strategic resource, and the prize a crown for those who understand the balance between compassion and calculation. The laureate is not merely honored for what they have done, but for how effectively they have aligned their actions with the world's appetite for virtue. This is a performance of morality, carefully orchestrated to win not just hearts, but the game of perception that rules nations. To Machiavelli, the awarding committee would not appear as neutral arbiters of justice, but as the invisible hand shaping the narrative of what peace should mean. In his view, power always hides behind virtue's mask. The committee's choices reflect the global dynamics of influence, whose peace deserves recognition, whose conflict remains untold, and whose suffering serves as backdrop to someone else's glory. Every award decision defines moral hierarchy, distinguishing between acceptable power and unacceptable rebellion. This is Machiavellian genius in modern form. Control not by force, but by defining what is good. To grant the Nobel Peace Prize is to crown one version of peace and silence others. It is to legitimize one ideology while cloaking that choice in the robes of universal humanity. Machiavelli would admire such subtle mastery, for it achieves control without appearing tyrannical. If one studies history's laureates through his eyes, patterns emerge. Some were visionaries who brokered peace through genuine compassion. Others were statesmen whose peace preserved existing power structures or redirected conflicts to quieter fronts. Machiavelli would not judge them as hypocrites but as successful tacticians who understood that moral recognition is the strongest shield a leader can hold. To him, peace achieved through compromise, manipulation, or coercion is still peace, because results, not methods, define power. The Peace Prize then becomes a mirror reflecting not humanity's virtue, but its strategy for maintaining order in a chaotic world. Even the public's emotional response to the Nobel Peace Prize would fascinate Machiavelli. He observed that people are easily moved by symbols, and the prize itself is a master symbol. Its name evokes holiness, its ceremonies radiate purity, and its winners are sanctified in global consciousness. Through this ritual of celebration, societies reaffirm their belief in moral progress, even when that progress is fragile or selective. For Machiavelli, such faith is useful. It keeps citizens hopeful, obedient, and morally aligned with the powers that define the narrative. In this way, the prize becomes not just recognition, but governance, a psychological tool to guide collective conscience. Consider how every Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech becomes a sermon of virtue, broadcast to millions. To Machiavelli, these moments are not accidental. They are acts of rhetorical statecraft. The laureate speaks not just to thank, but to claim authority over moral discourse. Their words reshape public opinion, and their story becomes a moral compass by design. The world listens, nods, and absorbs, rarely questioning the political context that produced the peace being praised. Machiavelli would smile at this, for it confirms his deepest insight, that the appearance of righteousness can rule hearts more effectively than armies can rule lands. He would also note the dual nature of peace itself. True peace, he might say, is rarely tranquil. It is often enforced through power, preserved through fear, and sustained by the calculated restraint of violence. The Nobel Peace Prize often glorifies the moment peace is declared, but not the quiet coercion or strategic suffering that may have made it possible. For Machiavelli, this selective storytelling is not deceit. It is necessary. Leaders who maintain peace must often act with cruelty in the short term to prevent chaos in the long term. The prize celebrates the result but conceals the method, preserving the illusion that peace and purity coexist naturally. If Machiavelli were alive today, he would likely see the Nobel Peace Prize as the highest expression of his political philosophy refined by modern media. It demonstrates that power can now be moralized and moral authority can be weaponized. The laureate becomes not only a symbol of peace but a global influencer, capable of shaping policies, public emotion, and international will. Their halo becomes a political instrument. Every handshake, every speech, every endorsement carries the weight of sanctified legitimacy. Even when controversies arise, when winners are accused of hypocrisy, or when peace proves temporary, the aura of the Nobel remains largely intact. That endurance, Machiavelli would note, is the sign of superior statecraft, the ability to control narrative even amid contradiction. He might remind us that no institution, however noble, can escape the dynamics of power. The prize's prestige depends not only on moral aspiration, but also on global recognition, funding, and the political alliances that sustain its authority. Nations celebrate it when it serves their image and question it when it challenges their interests. The moral landscape it defines is therefore never neutral. It shifts with the tides of power, ideology, and strategic need. Machiavelli would interpret this not as corruption, but as reality, the inevitable interplay between ideals and influence. To him, morality without power is powerless, and power without moral justification is unsustainable. The Nobel Peace Prize bridges that divide perfectly, giving rulers and reformers alike a way to appear righteous while pursuing their interests. This duality is what makes the Nobel Peace Prize enduring and effective. It allows humanity to believe in virtue while operating within the logic of survival. It gives people hope in progress even as it reinforces existing hierarchies. To Machiavelli, such balance is not hypocrisy but wisdom, the recognition that ideals and pragmatism must coexist for society to function. He would likely argue that the Peace Prize endures precisely because it satisfies both our moral vanity and our political necessity. It reassures us that goodness still triumphs, even when power writes the script. Ultimately, Machiavelli would not condemn the Nobel Peace Prize. He would admire it as one of the most brilliant inventions of modern governance. It keeps the language of morality alive in a world ruled by ambition. It turns peace into prestige, virtue into influence, and recognition into control. It demonstrates that power need not always roar. Sometimes it whispers through applause. And in that applause, nations find order, individuals find meaning, and the illusion of moral harmony sustains the machinery of the world. For Machiavelli, that is not a betrayal of peace, it is the purest form of it, because it understands that true peace, like true power, is never innocent, only effective.